we've signed 2 contracts so far, which should start up in the next sort of several months or so. The first is a take or pay contract with a Canadian customer. That's for the entire carbon-14 supply. And once we've got a clear line of sight into what 2024 looks like, we'd like to provide some revenue guidance to the street. So that has 2 manufacturing plants, both in South Africa, and they're starting up commercial operations right now. And so that middle vertical should be generating free cash flow around the middle of this year as we go into the second half. In terms of our main milestones for 2024, our goal is to supply at least 2 additional supply agreements, but we've already done that. So maybe we'll try and do 2 more between now and the end of the year. We'll see if we can do that. And really to generate sufficient cash flow, sufficient revenues for the company to become cash flow positive. And then in terms of operational milestones, get our 2 plants up and running in South Africa and producing commercial product. Having proven the technology in South Africa and built our first 2 plants, our goal is to take our ASPI technology to Iceland and build a number of much larger, more efficient plants in Iceland, which will really bring down the cost of isotopes dramatically. Our end markets are benefiting from multiple secular and geographic tailwinds. And I say our first plants will start up in the next sort of few weeks or months and start producing free cash flow around the middle of the year.
What are the next steps for the company and the most important catalysts going forward?
Well, the most important next steps is to start generating free cash flow, which we expect to do later on this year.
You indicated that you intend to be free cash flow positive the back half of this year. How big can this opportunity get in terms of the revenue generation potential?
Yeah, I mean, it could be huge. I don't know. I mean,
do you feel like you're still on path for generating free cash flow in the back half of this year and fulfilling your customer agreements?
Yeah. So we've got 3 verticals in our company. The PET lab is already generating free cash flow. That's good free cash flow positive already, and so that's there already. So to start generating free cash flow in the second half of the year, absolutely. Quantum Leap Energy is still some way away from.
You've also had customers that front you the capital to invest in the plants to go build this. So how has that come about, and how are you finding your customers?
Yeah, so we haven't made a single outbound phone call since we started the company out. Customers all come to us. Our goal is not to have to use our balance sheet to build any more plants in the future. Our goal is to use other people's balance sheet. Get a much better return on assets, return on equity when putting the equity in.
We have 3 plants that are in the process of being started up in South Africa. All 3 should be producing product before the end of the year.
Should investors be expecting positive free cash flow in Q3 and Q4 of this year?
Probably not Q3, but hopefully for Q4. Our plants are starting up now. We have a very low level of cash burn. Last year, we spent about $5 million in cash from operations. We don't need much revenue to get to cash flow break even. So, again, we haven't given guidance, but we have said, we hope to be cash flow positive in the second half of the year, and we're working hard towards that.
Total shares outstanding has increased significantly over the last few years. How should we think about the dilution rates going forward?
Well, the company now has more cash in its balance sheet than we've ever had before. We filed our 10Q last night, and we had a little under $30 million of cash on the balance sheet. Subsequent to that, the June 30th date, we've raised over another $30 million. So we have over $60 million of cash on the balance sheet now, pro forma for that raise. So, our needs going forwards to raise additional capital is a minimal. We'd hope to expect to raise a lot of it from debt as well. So hopefully that's the last of the equity raising we need to do in order to get this company to cash flow break even.
In earlier communications, you hinted at a QLE spinoff in late 2024. You have raised the cash to spin it off, but you just said it could take another 12 months. What is the cause of the delay?
Yeah, I think we want to spin it off as soon as possible. Obviously, the company has to achieve some milestones before we do that. And so we've been in discussions now with various governments for over 3 years now, about 3 years. And so we feel we're pretty close to getting our first permissions to build plants. And so having done that, I think that's probably the time to do it. It's impossible to predict how long it takes. It's out of our control. So all 3 plants have started up and they're in the process of enriching isotopes. And we'd expect to supply product to the market from those during the course of this year. And if we can do that, that should allow the company to get to cash flow break even during the second half of the year, and then start to drive significant amounts of free cash flow and build new plants. So there's a lot of milestones this year, mainly in terms of starting new plants up and starting to build more plants for the future. And we raised an additional $50 million of equity minus expenses and what have you to do with it. So that's gross proceeds during June. So, we actually feel really well capitalized now.
Gentlemen, how much cash do you have on the balance sheet? You keep raising equity. Why haven't you raised any debt?
Having a strong balance sheet allows us to go to government regulators and be in a much stronger position to get deals done, to find customers. I don't think we would, if we're limping along with $10 million on our balance sheet, we probably wouldn't have been able to sign an MOU with Fermi, or for that matter, a deal with TerraPower. So, you have to be well balanced, well capitalized to actually be able to get these contracts. So
the goal is to use other people's balance sheet. You get a much better return on assets, return equity when you're putting the equity in.
What revenues do you expect in 2025 and 26 from Silicon 28?
Great. That's more than I understood about semiconductors. That was fantastic. Thank you, Steph. And then in terms of revenues of 25 and 26, we haven't given guidance. We're talking to a lot of customers, and we'll update contracts as and when we get them to the marketplace. We're talking to a lot of interest in what we're doing there. Next question, please, Craig.
But we'd like to dig in a little bit further. So maybe to start off with Silicon 28, what the recent developments have been there, and how quickly you can start to ramp revenue.
So I'll take that one then, George. So the plant's been operational for about 7 months now, and we've been processing the first batch of product. That process is we'll be resuming that first sort of production run, which was in the middle of its string of batches, which makes up the first enrichment campaign, and we'll be shipping that first batch as soon as we can.
ASP, Maidstone for Aerodynamic Separation Process, also stands for as soon as possible. We've got a pretty good track record of building plants quickly, cheaply, efficiently, and on budget.